Beautiful St. Moritz, the home of winter sliding sports, bathing in sunshine on a frosty, snowy day high in the Swiss Alps. Hello, everybody. Welcome to heaven on earth, especially for winter sports aficionados. We're in a beautiful Engadin Valley where for over a century they've been racing down to the village of Celerina. It's the second and deciding run of the sixth race in the four-man bobsleigh World Cup. Hello, I'm Martin Haven. Alongside me is John Morgan. And John, just so delighted to be here in gorgeous St. Moritz.
Second run. Here's our first run highlights, though. German team, Max Arndt. He was the first man down the track. This is the world champion from last year. He really has good lines. I think he had a bad draw being the first man down here. It's not what you want in St. Moritz, but he posted the fourth best time of the run. And he's in a position to move up. I think he's got a great chance to medal, as he always does. Next up, here's the surprise. Team Nick Cunningham, the United States, driving the original night train sled. He went 13th as a draw and came down, and he surprised everybody on the bottom part of the track. He was flying, and he started again 16th, which is a real advantage starting later. And he has his best heat of the year in bobsledding and four-man bob. And Zubkov, he started 6th, and he flew down the track. He had a lead that I thought nobody would touch. Zubkov distanced himself from the rest of the field. I said, well, nobody's going to match him, but you know, it goes a little later here in the competition. And Melbardis here, he started 14th. He had a warmer track to work with, set the track record at the start. And this young Latvian, 23 years old, who won the Olympic test last year in Sochi, on this day, track record at the bottom, best time, and he positions himself with a chance to win a medal. He's only 400ths ahead of that Russian Zubkov.
Well, you can see lots of support for the Swiss sliders here, but it is Oscar's Melbardis who leads after the first of our two heats. Total time of both runs added together will decide the winner. Fastest man down the ice might win by as little as 100th of a second, with Zubkov second, Cunningham and Max Arndt battling for third on the podium, and many, many more tight battles down the top 20. We could see a lot of changes here. Yesterday's women's bobsleigh race saw Canadian Kaylee Humphries go from 10th to 1st. So in this track in St. Moritz, all things are possible. Well, it's -5 on the ice, but with the sun out, the 0 degrees probably feels like +10. In the shade there at Horseshoe, probably feels a little closer to 0 unless you've got something to warm you up. But John, wherever you watch on this track, you are close to the best facility in the winter sporting business.
Yeah, here's our start list. They go 20th to 1. And believe me, every single athlete here, if you asked them if you want to compete here for the next 2 or 3 weekends, they would say yes. This is the ultimate for everybody who comes. As an athlete, a coach, broadcasters like us, you know, the journalists that are down in the press room, it is just spectacular setting here in the birthplace of the sport. And it's in the same spot as it was 100+ years ago.
20 sleds go into the second and deciding heat in St. Moritz. World Cup number 6 in the Viessmann World Cup trail for four-man bobsled. First on the ice then, the man who was 20th, Nicolae Strate of Romania. And this Romanian veteran, who's now perhaps in his final career on ice, looking to try and pick up a couple of places. It's just 600ths of a second behind the sled in front. And John, those are the groups that you like to see changing around.
Notice he pushes up front, so he's got both feet locked on the ice. Some drivers come from the back, have that big hit. They didn't have a very good start. Now, educational-wise, the start time's one thing, but the speed, 50.9, keep your eyes on that. That is a box score you want to keep track of, because there's one thing to have the great start time, but you want the best start speed, and that's because you have to get in the sled, sit down before that first curve, and let the sled accelerate up here where the speeds are slow.
51 kilometers an hour, 32 miles an hour, so they've already exceeded the town speed limit by the time they get out of the second corner on this track from a running start.
Here's Horseshoe, the most famous curve in the world. You want to hit that perfectly for a slingshot effect on the bottom part of the track. 109.9 is something you want to keep track of. The best sledge might be up near 112.
Wild.
Same thing he did in the first run, and he was not the only pilot to have a problem there.
70 miles an hour and accelerating hard. They'll touch 89.6 miles an hour at the bottom of the run, and this track will only get faster with the remaining 19 sleds.
105.62. Am I reading? Yes, he's 1,300s faster. Hey, the Romanians, congratulations to them. They just got this stuff being broadcast now on Romanian TV. It's the type of support that they need. They're driving the oldest sled in the field. They have a little bit to work with, and boy, do they perform at a level here on this World Cup circuit. Now, the problems are down here. Watch him hit the take-on. That pushes him over. This is way at the bottom, nameless curve. Now, watch how late from that curve to this curve. He just late. And the next curve where it's almost lights out, he's on the wrong side of that straightaway. Now the back end, he's got to really steer hard, but all that pressure takes away all the time down at the bottom. This is where you're near 85 miles an hour. Look at his eyes. Yeah, my eyes got big there.
Speeds are insane on this track. Next up from the Czech Republic, another small team. Jan Verber, 26 years old now.
Well, 5:16 start in the first run. Ooh, the driver did not have a great entry there. 5:10 start is decent, but the speed on the left, 51.5. Wow. Now, the best speeds in the first run there, 51.5. There was like 51.8, 51.7. That's 32 miles an hour. Keep your eyes on that. That push track up there could be faster because the sun's on it. And when you have a faster push track, you have faster times at the top, you have faster times at the bottom.
Coming out of Nash and Dixon here, they will line up for the trademark corner horseshoe.
Ooh, drifting. Be patient here. Yes, into Telephone. Look at the names of the curves. Telephone, Shamrock, Devil's Dyke. These are all curve names from 100 years ago. What tradition?
Kilometre an hour quicker than he was in the first heat. The track is definitely faster.
Faster for everybody, but everybody's out doing their own personal best on the track today. He's accelerating away, 144.8, 90 miles an hour. Wow, 105.25. He's 50 hundredths, 45 hundredths better in his second run.
That's a real improvement for him. It was a smoother run, less errors, and the track's faster.
Romanians exit the box, and the Czechs, let's go and hang out in the leader's box as long as we can. But to start, and watch the driver, he gets in here. So you think this is easy? This is like a layup in basketball or a short putt. You take it for granted, but sometimes you hit your foot wrong and you don't get in right. But boy, they had pretty good start velocity. I would think everybody else is too. Now he's on the wrong side of the screen. Look at this, he's coming down the right side. He should be on the left side of the screen. Goes into this curve late, and this is what happens when you're late. Big pressure on the take-on. Wow. It's dangerous down there.
Well, Jan Verber, the Czech Republic, is in the lead. Good start time from them as well, 5:10. Next up, Switzerland's Gregor Baumann. He and Reiko Peter battling for the second spot in the Swiss Olympic team. It looks for the first time in history as though Switzerland, by their own rules, may only have one sled going in two-man and four-man, and that would be Bert Hefty, unless they sort out the balance of power between Baumann here and Rico Peter, who raced last week in the four-man and raced yesterday in the two-man.
Listen for the cowbells. Gregor Baumann, I'm very surprised he's back here in 18th place. Now down below where we saw the Romanian sled and the Czech sled both had problems in the nameless and tree curves, he crashed there earlier in the week. So did American Corey Butner. And this Baumann, this Swiss sled, he had problems in the first heat down there. So I'm sure he's thinking about that albatross for him, but he shouldn't be back here in 18th place. He started late in the run, should have had a better time than he did. And this is an athlete who just hasn't performed at the level I thought he would in the last couple of years.
We only had the 16th fastest start in the first heat, same as Jan Verber in the Czech Republic. Verber's crew just went 5/10 quicker. Bauman's crew didn't improve more than 1/10. 110 kilometers an hour,
That's
a little
good speed.
quicker.
Yeah, he could catch him down here. Now, this is where he made the mistake, where he crashed in practice. They're smooth there. Only 4 back. A little rough on that exit, but I don't think that's going to cost him. He's bringing it back.
Already over 75 miles an hour, accelerating hard, but a huge skid.
200,
wipe off
140.
speed.
This is going to be right to the 100th. I don't know if he's got enough speed to overtake the Czechs.
90 miles an hour is not enough. He needed more, and he drops behind the Czech Republic.
Looked like in the bridge curve, that sled came off on 2 runners. That sort of blocked the, his acceleration point where you're probably going 75 to 80 within that 150-yard stretch. But I'm surprised. The Swiss on this track finishing 18th, not good. Here's the bridge curve. Centrifugal force coming up. Now watch him flop off there. Look at the heads all going left to right. I don't think that was a good exit. I think it's right here. Comes in. Now that wasn't bad there, but there's the tap. Little tap beforehand. And he hits hard here. There we go, the back end skidding. This is where the mistake was. He made a mistake 2 or 3 corners up. It cost him in that straightaway.
Jan Verber of the Czech Republic leads from Gregor Baumann of Switzerland here in St. Moritz. Edwin van Kalker of the Netherlands needs a big result here to turn his season around. He is going down in flames at the moment in 2-man and 4-man. Only 16th here after the first heat. Just 100th ahead of Swiss Gregor Baumann and 300s ahead of our current leader Jan Verber of the Czech Republic.
Well, there's ever an athlete that needs a run of his year is right now is Edwin van Kalker. We know about athletes in slumps, and I've mentioned this the last couple of weeks in the program. This was a top driver, probably the most successful driver ever out of the Netherlands in the last 6 years. A lot of media, a lot of hype, a lot of sponsorship, great athletes, great equipment. And he'll be the first to admit, I got to get better. And yesterday in the 2-man, he almost crashed down here in Horseshoe. And he did something that no one else in the competition did. It's almost like he fell asleep. So I'm hoping for the guy to have a good performance.
Tiny margin in front, 400, so he's got no improvement so far in his first heat. The gap is closing,
no speed
108.9.
No speed.
Not enough. He's only 67.7, needs to be over 68 miles an hour there.
And there's just no confidence. And the confidence in your eyes to your hands. At 80 miles an hour, I mean, you got to have confidence. This is just not a go through the motions. And he's an athlete who's in a slump, and he needs to get rid of it.
Can he close at the line?
No.
Not enough. Yeah, it's at this stage, it's a head game. The equipment is fine, the team physically are good, but it is a head game, and he cannot get it under control. Mentally, Edwin van Kalker is struggling. There's all sorts of dramas in the Dutch Federation as well.
Lines, drifts to the left side of our screen, taps going in. Now he can't get on the curve where he wants to. He has to go in and steer on the curve's terms, not his terms. And here in the finish, he's going uphill here. You don't want to be hitting going uphill.
That's a brutal hit as well. Big hit there. Brother Arnold helping with the sled, but Edwin van Kalker, what a time to have
tied.
your worst season.
And he tied with Baumann. That little hit at the bottom, that cost him the 600s.
Francesco Friedrich of Germany, the junior 4-man world champion last season. He was the 2-man world champion on this track last year as well at the senior level, but he slipped away in the first heat today.
Well, he hit everything in sight, and those brand new German push bars didn't come down again. 51.9.
Great speed off a 5:05 start.
This athlete performed worse than anybody else in the first heat. He hit right here coming up. He snuck through there without tapping the inside wall. He made every mistake he could, so he could have post a great run here, as you would expect, and live a long time in the leader's box.
2 years ago made his World Cup debut in St. Moritz. Last year in St. Moritz won the 2-man world championship. This year floundering outside the top 15 in 4-man.
Yeah, that's because of a bad first run. Look at the speed. Ooh, he hit before Devil's Dyke. Now watch out down here. This is a little bit better line. Nice transition there. He's got 3/10 up. You would expect that. But he needs to pull away. He needs to accelerate. He needs to have the 90+ mile-an-hour speed down here.
145s, no, not enough.
Doesn't have the speed, 89.9 miles an hour. So this will be enough to take the lead, but he's not wanting to take the lead. He shouldn't be in this position. He should be way down challenging for a top 6 or 7 spot. He might move up 1 or 2 places, but I don't think that's enough to have him make the move he should. With that equipment, with that start time, this young German pilot didn't have a good weekend of 4-man bobsled. Now, watch his arm here getting in. Yeah, he doesn't get in cleanly. Look at that. He's still reaching for the handles there right at the end of the grooves. Watch his visor here. Second guy's visor comes up.
They haven't quite got across the finish line.
Oh, look at that.
That's
what was
that's
that?
not Janis Becker, that's Gregor
the third guy,
Birnbach.
Gregor Birnbach, number 3.
Yeah.
Great pickup by our TV crew.
And that shows you how fast
Fast
they
they're
are
going.
90 miles an hour in the wind, whoomph, straight off.
Well, they lifted their head there too early, it seems like.
Yeah. Francesco Frujic, our race leader from Jan Verber of the Czech Republic and Edwin van Kalkro of the Netherlands, 15 still to come. Nikita Zakharov, the third of our Russian sleds here in Samoritz, 15th after the first heat. We're going 20-1, last to fast in the second heat to decide the medals here at the world's greatest ice sliding track. Nikita with a tiny margin to the sled in front. Simone Bertazzo of Italy just 0.04 of a second. He will try and climb back up towards the top 10 here.
Stop. 5:16 start in the first run, 16th best time. This is definitely an improving Russian 4-man pilot here, Zakharov. And I told the story earlier, the top 3 nations in World Cup points in the discipline have 3 sleds in the Olympic competition. The next nations only have 2. Well, the U.S. going into the competition last week in Winterberg was ranked number 3, but of course Holcomb crashed in 1 run and so did the other American sled. So they had 1 race where they only had 1 sled finish. The Russians moved ahead of him. Now Zakharov only has to finish the competition, which he already has because he's got enough in the first heat down and he can do no worse than 20th. But in the first heat, he almost crashed in the bottom part of the track in that same spot we've been talking about.
He's drifting away from the pace. 1:10.2 is good speed, but he's already 0.2 of a second down on Francesco Frujic in Germany, and a big skid there won't help. And another rocky exit.
He's had problems down there, but he's not the only soldier to have a problem down there. Everybody, even the good sleds.
Track's too fast for him. He wasn't able to adapt to the extra speed from the first heat.
89.1. He's a kilometer off, mile per hour off. 5th best time of the run. He drops 2 places.
Well, the track is warmer, John, so it's faster. It's been polished by the 4-man first runs and a full complement of skeleton sleds, so it feels icier and slippier.
Yeah, and they didn't put the brakes on properly. Right, you don't know how steep it is behind them, so very dangerous if they don't put the brakes in the proper spot. Here's up top, out of wall. Can't make these mistakes. Little tap. Now he's skidding to try and get on the take onto the curve. Now down on the bottom, he should be more in the left. He's coming into the middle of this curve. Now watch the exit, so he's late. But everybody's doing it. So he didn't really recovered well. He didn't have a lot of pressure on the take-on to that bridge curve, but the exit there right here's the bridge curve. That exit there, that's where he got in trouble.
Well, Zakharov slips down the order. Francesco Frujic of Germany still leading as Simone Bertazzo of Italy. 14th after the first heat, gets ready for his start. With Simone Fontana, Francesco Costa and William Frulani behind him. And is this maybe the last season for Bertazzo? He's only 31. But you wonder how long the Italian Bobsled Federation can continue. There's our leaders in the box.
Gives up all sorts of time at the start. 20th best start in the first run. 5:21 again, the speed, 50.8. Remember, the Germans had 51.9, so the Germans were a kilometer better in the first 100 meters. That doesn't sound like much, but trust me, that is a lot in this sport. Everything's measured. Look at that, and that's a major mistake. If you don't have a good start time, then you have to go down and have 2 home runs. You can't. That start deficit is too much to overcome sometimes. And this is a great pilot. He won a bronze medal on this track at the 2-man World Championships in 2007, but The woes of the Italian program continue to show.
The problem with Italy is there is no strength in depth. There's no backup, no new athletes coming through, and it's just all starting to ebb away. Development has left them behind, and he's being left behind as well. 3,500's back.
And you wouldn't know it. They're all big, strong athletes. Most of them are carburery. They get like a military sports athlete. They get to come out and compete. But
top speed at the bottom. He closes the gap a fraction, but he's still a quarter second back.
Yeah, I think Mr. Friedrich knows he's going to live there for at least a couple more sleds.
I think that's why they've got their warm clothes on so quickly. They're expecting to be there for a little while longer. Well, Francesco Friedrich, 8,900s off the lead in the first heat. If he improves 2/10, that'll get him into the top 10.
Stake, try to sneak out of the wall curve and that little skid of the four-man. Boy, so much time is lost up there. Bottom part of the track here. This is pretty good exit from, from the one curve to the other. A lot of teams having problems down there. Look at the runner tips. You can see them playing. And this is at probably 80 miles an hour right there.
Big smiles from Francesco Friedrich on the left in the blue hat, and his teammates, they lead this race with still 13 to come. And here's the first of our Latvian start monster teams. Oskars Kibasmanis, Raivis Broks, Edgars Erin's a brand new athlete, and Varis Laibum's another newcomer to the team this year. These guys, only 13th fastest start, John, so they were missing a little at the start. And Kibasmanis just didn't find his best drive on the way down.
Set the start record yesterday in two-man bobsled. He's 20 years old. Edgars Erin's, number 3 guy. He marched in the Olympic Games parade in London. He was a decathlete, finished 27th. And he's come to bobsled, and his dream is to march also in the Sochi parade. This is his first competition. And this, I can't say enough about Latvia, a country of 2.5 million people. They just went 1-2 in men's skeleton. They're leading this race. The Latvian one is leading this race. We're a small, little, tiny nation. To be this powerful in the winter sliding sports, wow, you got to take your hat off to them.
A country of 2.5 million people, 1.5 million of whom are watching it live on television.
The market share for TV is unbelievable. And this is a young pilot. He's learning. Might not match Friedrich's time down here, but this is just, on-the-job experience.
It's a little bit of a tidy run, but again, nameless into tree is causing all sorts of problems.
Even for the veterans, they're having problems. The track isn't the same every year. It changes every day. It's natural ice. They come out and shave one of these curves. Take-ons too much. It's not what you see in practice. 7th best time of the run, Well,
again, he's been driving. This is only his 3rd full season at the top level as a driver. In 2010, he was still a brakeman, and a very young one at that.
Great athlete, man. See this name, Oskars Kibasmanis. 2018, we're going to see something out of this kid.
We say he's 20 years old. In fact, he's 20 years young, isn't he?
Yeah, look at the skid here. He's got a tap going in here. Then he's got to take the terms of the curve. He's got to go to the middle of the curve, steer too hard. And look at the nose come out there. Look at the rudder tips. He's skidding totally across the ice there. A little bit of a panic mode, but when you're 20 years old and maybe only have 20 trips down this track, not bad.
He hauled it off. It didn't crash, but it cost him probably 0.2 of a second. Canada's Justin Cripps, 12th of 21 sleds in the first heat. He now goes to try and bust into the top 10. The other 2 Canadian sleds already in the 10 in front of him. This ex-brakeman, one of the massive Canadian crews, still just 27 years old, originally from Hawaii.
4 good athletes here. The Canadians got 3 teams of great athletes. 51.5 kilometer speed. That wasn't the great speed. Second best start, but that was not the start speed that Friedrich had, who's in the winner's box down below. Now, there's quite a bit of difference here. Cripps has got quite a lead. 2,400ths lead or 3,400ths lead on the, but it's already down to 7.
Yeah, a little wild through Snake 1 and Snake 2. He'll be in the red when he gets to Horseshoe. Nash and Dixon, neat exit, middle of the track, that's what you want.
But this is one of 3 Canadian sleds ranked in the top 10 in 4-man bobsled. That tells you how strong North Americans are in this sport. It used to be all Germans and all Swiss. Now the North Americans are,
and again, tree to nameless, nameless to tree rather, really rocky transitions.
But this is a young driver in his first Olympic cycle. The next 4 years, you know, he's powerful, he's fast, he will learn.
1:44.5, 89.8 miles an hour. He'll drop behind Francesco Friedrich into second position, but that still guarantees him another strong finish. And he compares himself with the very best on the planet, but they've got, in a lot of cases, several more years driving experience than Justin. Well, a 5:06 start. The crew will be happy about that.
Here's horseshoe, the high line. Now we're going to look for the runner tips. Watch the runner tips come into play here. Now we'll see him at the angle. Now look at him pointing down. Look at his head. You can almost see his eyes looking for the take on the outlet. Now he brings it back to neutral. Felt comfortable in the exit. They call the take on and the exit of the curve. Now down below here, he missed that. Boy, everybody has been so close down there in that curve. Nameless to tree. Tom Delahunty looks on his right, the coach. That's where he knew he made the mistake. But Justin Cripps, another work in progress.
Yeah. And next up for Canada is Lynden Rush with Neville Wright, David Bissett and Lascelles Brown. Only 14th fastest start for these guys, 11th at the bottom of the track.
Same as they had in the first run. Speed in the left, 51.4. Again, that's not as good as their teammates or the Germans. And Lynden Rush, breakout day yesterday, the two-man bobsled. He was Canada 1 merging into this year, but he's been replaced by Chris Spring. But yesterday, it looked like Lynden Rush made a good comeback. He had a 4th place finish again in the two-man, his best finish of the year in either discipline.
But he needs to finish significantly ahead of his teammate Justin Cripps to go from Canada 3 to Canada 2 in the four-man. So Lynden and Justin Cripps battling for the 2nd spot in the Canadian Olympic four-man team.
Good speed. Boy, a little tap there. Now let's see if he can get clean down here in the nameless and tree curves. That's not bad. That's one of the better lines. He's gone from -10 to -12. Looks like Lynden Rush with some big speed here could finally take the Germans out of the leader box. Yes, huge speed. 90.5 miles an hour. Lynden Rush. Much better second run. He had the first run lead over the Germans. This is what Lynden Rush needs, because this was the bronze medalist at the 2010 Winter Olympic Games in four-man bobsled. He's not achieved those numbers in the last 2 seasons.
In four-man especially, battling for a spot on the team.
Exit of horseshoe. You want to come over here? Does he tap? Yeah, he taps that bunk just a little bit. Not much. Wasn't that bad, but watch the back end airborne at all. No runners are on the ice. You exit with a slingshot effect on that horseshoe curve. If you hit it right, boy, does it reward your time.
Hi, Olivia. Hi, Amelia. Hi, Harriet.
That's all his kids. He's got 3 kids at home.
Lynden Rush is our race leader. We have 9 sleds still to go here in St. Moritz. 10 sleds still to go here in St. Moritz. Well, halfway through the second heat, in the green jacket there, Ivo Ferriani, wearing his traditional Western hat. Former coach for Italy, for Canada, bobsled driver in his time as well. Now the president of the FIBT, the governing body of international sliding. And down there at the horseshoe bar.
Wilfred Idema in the orange jacket, vice president of the FIBT Legal Affairs. And trust me, if you come to St. Moritz, this is where you want to go hang out. That horseshoe bar, you have the
big screen right above them.
Filippo Gianni holding his child right there. He does all of the media or social media work around the track. The track's got its own studio. They do daily reports from the track. They're on Facebook, and the following by the Swiss bobsled fans is incredible.
Well, Swiss bobsled is in a bit of a problem area at the moment. They may only qualify 1 sled to go to the games.
And the Switzerland is coming off an Olympic Games, and there's our Russian friends. George on the right, the Russian president. And in the back, Evgeny Popov, famous Russian bobsled pilot, now coaching.
He's on the coaching team.
But the
He's
Swiss,
bringing the development squads.
Back to the Swiss, they're coming off the 2010 Winter Olympic Games where they did not win a bobsled medal for the first time, I think, since the 60s. And so the Swiss, they didn't like that track up in Whistler. But the track in Sochi, Hefty won the pre-Olympic test last year, and it looks like a track that favors his style. Big, powerful start.
Just saw Olga Stolneva, the Russian women up watching at the top of the track, the Canadian women as well helping with the sleds. It's all part of the teamwork. When it's the women's race, the men help with the sleds so the girls can concentrate on their preparation, and the other way around helps the men when the women do the sled dogging. Everybody thinking about lunch here already in St. Moritz, from winged to on two legs. Hello and welcome back to St. Moritz. We're halfway through the deciding run in round 6 of the Viessmann four-man bobsleigh World Cup. Alexander Kasyanov tied with Jackson from Great Britain for 9th spot after the first heat. A top 10 finish would do both a power of good in terms of confidence going into the second heat, into the run-up to the Olympic Games. I'm Martin Haven, alongside me is John Morgan.
Very surprised with Kasyanov in the first run, being tied for 9th. This is one of my dark horses for four-man bobsled in Sochi, beyond that other guy they call Zubkov, the favorite to win the gold medal. But this he's impressive, 51.6. That's the second best start speed, even though they're the third best start time. But the start speed is so important, and he had a rough first run. And really surprised, because every week it seems to me that he puts in one good heat and he's always lingering that top 5 or 6, and once in a while picks off a medal like he did in Park City in one of the opening four-man races of the year.
Well, with age and experience, John, comes the consistency that he's lacking, so he will step up as Zubkov retires after Sochi to become the Russian #1, and by the time they get to Korea in 4 years' time, maybe he'll have that consistency to go with the speed.
Yeah, he's got maintaining speed down here to stay ahead of Lynden Rush, the leader. Little tap there out of Gunter Sachs. Not the speed Lynden Rush had, mile an hour down almost, but should have enough time in the bank.
Oh, 300ths of a second.
Wow, that half a kilometer speed just cost him almost 8/10 hundredths on that last 200-meter part of the track.
Well, Lynden Rush, Kasyanov and Jackson, 3 sleds covered by 100th of a second. He just squeaked in front of the Canadians to seal a top 10 finish.
Here's the pivotal part of the track. Now there's a nice exit. But he hits here into Devil's Dyke, and when you hit there hard, that forces you into the middle of the curve. You got to steer hard late. The next curve you're steering hard late. That cost him at least 10-15 hundredths of time in a ripped uniform.
There is Alexander Kasyanov of Russia, our race leader, tied to the 100th with John Jackson of Great Britain. And Jacko in George, the four-man sled, helped win the design by McLaren, the Formula 1 team. Stu Benson, Bruce Tasker, Joel Fearon, they pulled off a big start in the first heat, and the Brits are starting to get their starting power back again, and that could be key to their success.
Well documented that Jackson tore his Achilles in July. He's still out here pushing. Unbelievable red badge of courage there. I mean, 5:09 start, exact same as they had in the first run. The start speed 51.6, same as the Russian. So now it's game on. He's tied with the Russian at the bottom, and he's in red numbers now already. So
that's 100th of a second slower at the start. Until the next split time, he'll stay in the red. Out of Snake and down to Sunny. 800s back.
Top 5 finish in the World Championships here last year. He had a chance to medal in the 4th run, just missed. He likes the track. Gonna need big speed, 110.8 or 9 speed here to have a chance. 110.6, oh, and he hits not as hard as Kasyanov.
Same as the Russians in speed.
Kasyanov had problems down here on the bottom though, it's 1300s. If he gets perfect down here and gets the 140-kilometer speed, 90-mile-an-hour speed, he can do it.
Great lines from Jackson.
He's got the speed. Oh, it's going to be close.
How much ice is left?
Right to the 100th.
Will he be in front? 500s behind, and that puts him down into 3rd. That's how close Kasyanov, Rush, and Jackson were.
Falls behind Lynden Rush.
Well, that drops him out of a potential top 10 finish.
Devil's Dyke, that little nip up there in Devil's Dyke cost him, the time. He'd be the leader. But Goods, he came back on the bottom, but he ran out of track. We're going to take a look at the driver's hands here at the start. Brakeman's hand. Watch the brakeman's hands. as they come, to get in, get down. I mean, you think this is easy. This is hundreds of dry land training sessions in the summer. And the brakeman coming in the sled, we didn't see what happened there, but down here, look at the leaning of the driver to try and get over where he wants, and he hits hard here. This little tap here, that's what cost him at least 500s at the bottom part of the track and why he's in third place.
Well, there is John Jackson, Royal Marine Commando. Chris Spring, Canada's #1 bobsled driver in 2-man and 4-man. 8th after the first heat here in St. Moritz. Can he crack another top 6 finish?
Second best start time. Oh, mistake there and a skid. 5:04, great start. Second best start in the first run, 51.7. That's great, but I thought there was a skid there.
His worst result of the season is 7th.
Good run in the first heat, but just didn't have any downtime. Started 5. Sometimes you can't see the little meticulous mistake that the driver would make on the take-on or the exit of a curve.
1100s up on our race leader, Alexander Kasyanov of Russia.
There's the slingshot effect on the bottom. This is where the sled needs the motor. 111 kilometers, that's motoring even with that tap. But he lost time on the bottom part of the track in the first run. That's not bad.
If he can avoid any touches on the wall here, build that speed over 90 miles an hour.
Gunnar Sachs, 145 watt. 145.8, he's pulled away. This will be the leader.
90.7 miles an hour and still accelerating through the 5G bottom corner.
50 hundredths better in the second run than the first run. The track is getting faster, but not everybody's having faster runs.
Big improvement from Chris Spring of Canada to take the lead.
I think he could have done this in the first run.
Yeah. Little untidy first heat. He's made amends, though. That could put him in the top half dozen. Listen to the crew.
Hey, that was a really good.
Here's our replay where he just knacked, little devil's dyke, just touches on the take-on. That was out of Shamrock, but he did pretty good on the bottom part of the track.
Chris Spring of Canada leads the race from Alexander Kasyanov of Russia. Lynden Rush third for Canada, and Chris Spring topping the speed trap. Well, there is the Darwin-born ex-Australian leading the race.
Baby, all hair.
And we had a tie for 6th position here in St. Moritz after the first of our 2 heats in the 4-man bobsleigh. Yesterday's 2-man gold medalist Bert Hefty is the first to go of that tied pair of sleds.
Good Swiss precision start there. Speed 51.7. That matches the best start speed of this run. As you would expect, this guy won the race. He's a 2-man monster. 4-man he's not as comfortable with. His 2-man win yesterday was unbelievable. His first ever gold medal in 2-man bobsled as a brakeman or a driver. And he's been a brakeman with all the great drivers. Martin Annan, Ivo Rug. And yesterday he was emotional at the bottom when he won his 2-man gold, first ever. One of his 2 kids in his arms.
Well, he's won on a host of different tracks. He's won 4 races in Winterberg, of all places, in the last 6 years, but never in St. Moritz. And that home win, wow, that
lot to his career. Boy, oh boy, that was dangerous. Not as comfortable, the 4-man. Chris Spring was perfect down here. Hefty's gonna have to find some speed. He doesn't have it. Now he could fall 3 or 4 places because it's so tight at top of that leaderboard. Only one. Boy, he got out of there lucky.
Yeah. Chris Spring and the team loving being in the leader's box in the sunshine as others try and fail to beat their time.
Hefty's not disappointed. He just uses the 4-man because they make him. If he is his choice, he probably wouldn't drive 4-man.
He might be the only Swiss going in 4-man to the games, so he needs to get some practice.
Look at these lines out of horseshoe. Look at the heads, the aerodynamic profile. Now watch the runners. Where does he pull the string? Right here now he says, maybe I better get off of this horseshoe curve and slingshot my sled and team to the bottom. But he didn't. On the exit of this curve, he hit hard out of Shamrock, and he's in second.
And there's Bert, helmet off, looking happy. I think it's taken a while to wipe yesterday's smile off his face. Thomas Florschutz of Germany has looked anything but happy this pre-Olympic season. Currently only in 6th position here in St. Moritz. His best result, he's had 2 bronze medals. Other than that, it's been a scattergun of results from 7th to 15th.
Top dog in the German program, coming after the Olympic silver medal in 2-man. But then these young kids came out of nowhere. Max Arndt, 25, Francisco Friedrich, 23, and all of a sudden he's relegated to Germany 3.
And there's young Manuel Mahacha as well, who's not even in the World Cup team, so there's plenty waiting to fill his shoes.
Yeah, he needs to start to do some performance here because he's the veteran of the team. And he made mistakes in the first heat up there in Wall and Snake. He corrected them there. He was fast on the bottom part of the track in the first run.
But the track, the sled really slid all over the track, really skidded away under him. He's much more under control this time. He's steering too much to control it. 1:10.7, not fast.
And he didn't hit there, though, before Devil's Dyke. 0.3 of a kilometer down, big skid there, big problem. But he didn't hit before out of Devil's Dyke there. So he could get the speed. Remember what Chris Spring did out of Devil's Dyke. And now the speed on the bottom, 145.4. He's behind.
He's not going to take it. He hasn't got the speed that Spring had. He drops behind by 0.03 of a second. Spring is in a top 6 finish.
Yeah, he had some driving mistakes down at the bottom part of the track. Boy, they build this track different every year. They build it very easy for all the passenger rides they give, but there's some meticulous challenge down there between that nameless and tree curve that's got everybody perplexed. Now he comes down the right side here. Look at this, coming in, and he taps here. He's got a skid going. Means he's got to steer hard into this curve late and watch the sled flop. And look at the pressure on the next curve. Nameless and Tree have just been such a challenge for these top bobsled pilots in the world.
You saw his helmet rocking around in there as well.
Not happy.
No, one to forget again for Thomas Florschutz. It's Chris Spring who leads as we have 5 sleds to go in St. Moritz. Olympic 4-man champion Stephen Holcomb with the Night Train 2 at the top of the ice. 5th place after the first heat with Kurt Tomasevich, Stephen Langton and Christopher Vogt. They pulled out the 3rd fastest start.
Look for these guys to go 5:05, 5:04. Look how quickly they're down and in the sled. 5:05, speed should be 8, 51.8, 51.7. With that better speed, you should have better start velocity. And these guys they study all that, and I'm sure they'll be talking about it when they watch this video again.
Well, the boys have juiced it up at the start, finding every extra 100 they could to try and give Holcomb what he needs.
Bad weekend for Holcomb last week in this new Night Train sled. He crashed in Winterberg in the first run, finished 7th in the second competition that they had there. Ooh, and that tap before the horseshoe. Speed, he's going to need 110.9 or so to have a chance. 110.2, no speed.
111.1 is the fastest we've seen there, and Holcomb's a ½ mile an hour down. Oh, and a
way
big
off
flop.
late there too.
Chris Spring could pick up another major scalp. This is the reigning Olympic 4-man champion. He's behind the young Canadian. He's going further behind, 145.0.
The question is, how many is he going to fall? How many is he going to fall?
300's first to
7th
second. He
best
goes
time in a
4th
round.
behind Bert Hefty.
Wow, Holcomb lost to Hefty by 100th. That was not a clean run, and Steve's had a real problem. He'll be the first one to tell you with the transition of the BMW steering to this new Night Train 2 steering.
Well, nearly 2/10 quicker than his first run, but just not enough of an improvement.
No, wasn't smooth. He medaled on this track last year in the World Championships, and here's one of the real big mistakes. Look at the runners. Back end's a little bit of a skid. He taps going into horseshoe, and boy, you want to avoid that. Here he gets through with a little bit of tap on Devil's Dyke, throws him in the middle of the curve, and he has the same problems down here. This is down at Bridge. A little late down here coming off a bridge where you want to accelerate to 80 miles an hour. Yeah, he couldn't get the speed that he needed in the bottom. He'll be the first one to tell you.
Every weekend, converting from the 2-man BMW to the 4-man Bodine is playing tricks on his steering. Max Arndt of Germany, 300ths of a second away from a medal here in St. Moritz. Can he overhaul his closest rival, Nick Cunningham? First, can he beat the resurgent Chris Spring?
Start 5:10. They had great velocity though. 5:08 speed, 51.8, 51.6. Not as good as their first run. I expect this world champion, who won last year here on this track, he went first in the competition today. I think he had a disadvantage in the first heat. If he nails it, I think he's going to move up a long ways. I really think he was at a disadvantage compared to the teams that came behind him. He's got 2/10 in the lead on Spring. If he accelerates to 3,500ths ahead, I think he's got a chance to win the medal, if not a medal, a gold medal.
He had a quarter of a second in hand over Chris Spring from the first heat. He has not got his first round advantage, and he's not as quick as the Canadians.
No speed there. The same skid as Furshutz, and he almost lost it.
Wild
ride. Oh boy, everybody. And this is now a dilemma.
He's our world champion, struggling as much as our Olympic champion. Speed at the bottom, 1:45.5. He has enough to take the lead from Chris Spring, but is it enough for a medal?
That's, wow, 1:04.89. That's a lot faster. But you know, the best drivers in the world are all having problems down in Devil's Dyke, Nameless, Tree, Bridge. The track is providing a lot of problems.
Chris Spring, still the fastest second heat slide, but Max Arndt, the world champion, lives on his first round advantage.
Max, I'm sure you'll be the first to say that wasn't perfect. He goes down the right side of our screen. He should be on the left. Look at the back ends and the skid. Now watch happens. He's late. He's got to turn hard. And when you turn hard, look at the pressure in the curve. Now watch the sled come at us. He's turning twice. And when you steer twice, you're supposed to steer once in the curve.
He felt the skid starting and had to correct it before they crashed. And down at the bottom, Martineau to Portago, bang into the wall as he's going uphill.
Yeah, the uphill section. Look at
No Jarvol from Christoph Langen, the coach.
Max
Arndt is smiling, but he's still not in the medals. Martin puts her there with him. Nick Cunningham of the USA, what a great run from this man from Monterey, California in the first heat to put himself in medal contention with Justin Olsen, Johnny Quinn, and Dallas Robinson on the USA 2 sled.
This is another night train. This sled won with Holcomb last year, had a bronze medal in this event. Cunningham started 16th, so he had that late start advantage. Good start though, 5:07 start in the first run. 5:07 again, speed in the left, 51.7 they should have, 51.7 they have, so now he's got to point it straight. And he's only got 14 trips or so in this sled. He only took it over at the Lake Placid World Cup and crashed it in Winterberg. And there's a big, it's over now.
Well, no, he's got a chance still.
That was a quarter. That was a quarter of 20 right there.
And it will continue to haunt him until he gets some speed out of Horseshoe.
Yeah, that mistake right there. If he has 110.5, he'll be lucky. 110.2 speed. Yeah, that's all related to that mistake between Wall and Snake.
Best two results of the season in four-man so far for Cunningham. 12 places, but he's gone.
We said that was giving everybody problems.
Well, John,
everybody.
He's in a sled with very different steering responses from what he's used to, and when the reflexes are needed, when it has to be instinct, it's leading him astray because it reacts differently from what he's been used to over the last few years with his older sled. And unfortunately, having to drop out the back, Dallas Robinson. So the guys will not be credited with a time, so no points for Nick Cunningham from this weekend in St. Moritz.
A lot of teams have been making that mistake all day in both runs, and it finally caught up to Nick Cunningham.
But when you have to have that instinct, and the sled reacts differently to what you've been used to over the last 2 or 3 years, it's what leads you astray, and that didn't help.
Hope that they're all, we see 3 of them up, but I haven't seen the picture for Dallas Robinson. He
Dallas kicked out down in Martineau.
And let me tell you, Corey Butner crashed there early in the week for the US, had a concussion problem, and did not compete in this race. But Nick Cunningham going for a medal.
Anguish rather than pain.
Yeah, but the athletes get beat up more in this natural track. And here's down the right side. He's not too bad here, but he steers in, gets a little lazy here, and now this is the pressure, and he didn't steer. He steered too hard, then the centrifugal force brought him back up, and he couldn't save it. Look at the number 2 guy. He steered too hard in the first part of the take-on,
well,
and they went down.
You're talking about such finessing there to get the steer you want, and to you know, every instinct there is telling him exactly what his other sled would have done, and this one doesn't react the same way, and that's the drama there. He's got 2 more race weekends to just learn this sled intimately.
Here comes the Night Train team down to talk to him.
There's Chris Spring and the guys come down to see if they're okay.
And here's where Dallas Robinson gets out. Let's hope he's okay.
He flattens himself out to try and
that's where you get the ice burns. I mean, he's flying 50 miles an hour.
There's D-Rob. Yeah, he looks pretty beat up.
Great track and field sprinter, indoor 60-meter track and field guy, one of the tallest 60-meter sprinters you're ever going to see. Great physical specimen. And you need to be, I mean, on a natural track, you just stay, or excuse me, on a refrigerated track, you just stay in the sled and go. This natural track's a different beast when you crash.
And they're going so fast. They're over 90 miles an hour, 5G in that final corner. It just rips him out of the sled.
85 miles an hour when they crashed.
So you can see that the track workers are now clearing up after that crash. There will be a hold here in St. Moritz. They will pack little bits of snow into the gouges. Let's take a look again at Nick Cunningham. It all drifts away from him in the fastest parts of the track.
Steers really hard here. Really, look at the nose come down. Centrifugal force brings it back up. And, you know, he's only got 16, 17 trips, but everybody's been struggling in that curve. Everybody. We just saw Max Arndt, the world champion, come down and struggle there. And just a little bit too much pressure on the take-on cost him to steer too much.
And watch Dallas Robinson in the back. He's just taken a blow on the head there. Then they come down this finish corner, 5Gs, pulling his body out the sled. He just could not hang on any longer. He was desperately clinging on as they slid into Martineau.
This was a sled going for the medals.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of quiet. There's no celebration. Down at the bottom of the track, you have Max Arndt just won a medal.
There's Nick Cunningham beating himself up much more than the track has beaten him up. This is a tough ask for him. He's got to learn the intimacies of this sled in a month as opposed to 2 seasons.
One thing is, when you're thinking about 7th or 8th, he was going for a bronze medal.
Yeah. Yeah, he was going for it, no question. And we've seen 3 or 4 sleds almost do the same thing. They almost go over, and he was unlucky. He was 1 degree further over from vertical than they were, and that's what took him out. Max Arndt leads from Chris Spring and Thomas Florschutz. We have 2 sleds still to go here in St. Moritz. Well, with Chris Spring's crash, unfortunately, the athletes not all making it across the line, so no points at all. He won't be even registered as a top 20 finisher. There's Max Arndt on the left. Martin Putzer, the huge
Marcus Zubkov on the top. He's 6'7".
Marco Hubenbecker is just a giant. And there is Nick Cunningham. Very, very disappointed. But his teammates are going to really boost him up after that. They know these things just happen.
We got people with their shirts off.
Yeah,
look at where they're sunning themselves up there. But in the track comes through the forest. It's in the the trees. It's almost like being under a freezer. But there's some spots that's right at the start where you can just sit there, look at the big screen, look at the start below you. It's nirvana if you're a bobsled fan.
Ready to go as the track is clear for Alexander Zubkov of Russia, waiting impassively. The man on whom a nation has placed a lot of expectation for Sochi, but John Morgan, I'm not sure I've ever seen Alexander Zubkov looking more chilled out and more relaxed than he is right now. It's as if there's nothing at stake at all. Maybe the Russian, number 1, just feels he's in the best form of his life.
Well, he's trying to peak for Sochi. Of course, was very, winning medals in North America here and there. Hasn't won a gold medal yet this year, but he is a formidable opponent, everybody knows, and favored to win the gold medal in Sochi. And he was flying in the first round, except for Melbardis, who comes up next. He was impressive.
Bronze medal in Winterberg a week ago.
5:07 in the first run. I would expect them to do at least, if not better. 5:05, so he should have 61.8 speed here. 51.8, 51.8, there it is. Great start, entry! Big mistake there, though.
0.04 of a second separated Zubkov from the lead in the first heat, less than the blink of an eye.
That wasn't smooth either. And he's got enough time. He's got so much time in the bank. Yeah, he could make a couple more mistakes and still be the leader at the bottom. But boy, that guy Melbardis coming up, that's the one he's zeroed in on. And
it's not about world champion Max Arndt. It's about winning now. He's got half an opportunity. 1:11.12, fastest we've seen.
Watch out down here. This is where Cunningham crashed, right here in this spot here. And
he's wild too.
But you see, he didn't panic. He flopped off there. Minor steering. Yeah, he's going to get to the bottom here, and I kind of think this is going to be good enough. I don't know if Melbardis is going to be able to match this.
Not even 1:45 at the bottom, though, so it leaves the door open for Oskars Melbardis. He takes the lead, but it's only the 4th fastest run. That's not even as quick as Chris Spring came down.
Yeah, but those guys all went down 20 minutes ago. Remember, we had a 10-minute delay, too, so the track is at the end of the day.
Yeah,
you know, but he made mistakes all the way down.
He did make mistakes.
Yeah, he made mistakes. And Melbardis doesn't make any mistakes, he'll win. But, you know, Melbardis is the inexperienced driver. And here, this is what you expect out of one of the upstarts.
Unlucky not to hit a smooth bit of the wall. A little bit sticking out, really bumped the sled.
Then here, bottom, watch him hit into Devil's Dyke. This is out of Shamrock. Bang. He's in the middle part of the corner, but a lot of people have done that. And watch how he steered through that nameless tree problem without an issue like the other sleds.
Little smile from Alexander Zubkov. The commander leads now then. Oskars Melbardis of Latvia. Sensational first heat to lead here by 0.04 of a second. Can this two-man start monster? Former brakeman in Vancouver. He was on the back of a sled for Latvia. Now he's on the front of a sled and challenging for an Olympic medal in the next month. But can he win here in St. Moritz?
This is a big heat for him. He's been very inconsistent, 23-year-old driver, but he gets these unbelievable start times. There it is, track record, 51.9. 51.9 as expected with that start speed. Good entry in the sled. Look at the runner tips. Look at the 6'4", 250-pound guy get in the sled and sit down the way he is. The 3 guys behind him. I like to say this little country of 2.5 million Latvians. In the NFL, or in America, the biggest, fastest athletes are in the NFL. The biggest, fastest athletes in Latvia are in bobsledding, and you're looking at 4 of them right here.
The lead is coming down. Was 900s, now 700s. Will he be in front as he exit horseshoe? Neat exit required.
No.
That was tidy. Still 400s.
Not the speed.
1:10.6, nowhere close. Zubkov could end up winning this.
And he's got to be clean down here. Zubkov wasn't perfect. That's not a bad flop. 8. It's going to be close. If he gets the 145 number, he'll do it. And these Latvian sleds are fast on this track in the bottom. They've won here before.
Little tap.
There's the 145. He's doing it.
It's going to be gold for Oskars Melbardis. His first win of the season. Last week, 23rd. This week, gold for Oskars Melbardis of Latvia. His first win of the year. His previous best result in Park City was 4th place. He was disqualified in Calgary to start the season, 23rd in Winterberg in the second run after a disaster. And today, the Latvian flags wave. There's 1.5 million Latvians leaping up and down in their front rooms watching the TV. A huge result from Melbardis, piled under pressure from Alexander Zubkov, and the man who won the Olympic test event last year in Sochi wins the biggest 4-man race of the season to date here in St. Moritz. 1:04.77, 200s away from his first heat, the fastest in both heats and the race winner, and he's a third of the way potentially to €100,000 in the triple trophy. Oskars Melbardis, Daumans Driskins, Arvis Vilkasta, and Yanis Strenger, the 4-man crew. Chris Spring's team offer congratulations. They were bumped out into 4th place. Max Arndt, the world champion, in 3rd. But what a run from Melbardis and his crew. Start record of 5:02 in the first heat. Start record of 5 flat in the second. But it's not just about the starting now. Melbardis has got the skills. He's got the speed at the start. He's got a quick sled. He's gaining in consistency and experience, maturity and development. And he wins here. No wonder Coach Sandis Prusis there on the right looks so happy, and Melbardis echoes that with his team at the bottom. Well, well, well. What a time to post your first four-man gold medal of the season. Oskars Melbardis beats Alexander Zubkov, and Max Arndt, the world champion here a year ago. Chris Spring in fourth from Thomas Florschutz, and Bert Hefty, yesterday's two-man winner. Stephen Holcomb in a little bit of strife in the Night Train 2, but Nick Cunningham crashing out in Night Train 1, the Olympic Championship winning sled from 2010, after a dramatic finale in St. Moritz. Nice new haircut there. Business at the front, party at the back. Little bit of a mullet still going for Oskars Melbardis, but he's familiar, of course, over the years for his long, shaggy hair. He's got himself a bit of an Olympic winner's haircut going on there. I think he needs to get back into the barber's chair and get the tail tidied up, but apart from that, not much problem with his weekend here in four-man. Fastest in the heat, one with a start record and a track record. Fastest in the second heat with a start record, and only 200ths away from his own track record. Nobody came within more than a couple of hundreds of his time, and he drove away in the second heat to win by nearly a quarter of a second. Speed and maturity, and he'll gain the Magnum of Mum Champagne. Might not go far amongst those athletes, coaches, and the fans that travel around watching the Latvian athletes. Big day for Latvia today. 1-2 result from Martins and Thomas Dukors in the men's skeleton, and a victory in the four-man, the blue ribbon event here in St. Moritz for their four-man sled, led by Oskars Melbardis. Great place to chill out in the afternoon sunshine. I'm sure some of the fans will be heading for a quick beer down at the Horseshoe Bar or out to the slopes. A few more hours of gorgeous St. Moritz sunshine left to play with on this Sunday afternoon. And then the short trip, just about a 2-hour drive to Innsbruck in Austria, their winter sports capital, the home of the 1976 Winter Games, and to the Eagles track where we race next weekend. So for the 28 and 48 venue, we head to what was in 1976 and in 64 an Olympic venue as well. And that will be the final race, which will count for Olympic selection criterion for every athlete in the field. So we're arriving at that pressure cooker time of the season. What a place to sit and relax. The world's greatest ice racing track. Maximilian Arndt, the world champion on this track last year, still leads the World Cup rankings from Alexander Zubkov. Stephen Holcomb slips to fourth as Chris Spring advances. And a win for Oskars Melbardis puts him in the top 10 from 14th place after the last two races in Winterberg in Germany. And it's a big, big day for Latvian bobsledding. Melbardis, cool, calm, collected, and claiming victory here. John Jackson of Great Britain, 11th spot in the World Cup rankings, but a much better day from him. Well, down in the finish area, we'll be handing out the flowers and the Mum Champagne to our top three teams. Max Arndt and his crew on the right in the yellow, Alexander Zubkov in the blue with his team, and the Latvians, Oskars Melbardis and his guys will receive the champagne. Oskars on the left there, Damas Dreskins lifts the bottle of the Mum 1 winners champagne. Well, it was a good, strong run from Max Arndt. Couple of mistakes crept in from Alexander Zubkov and let the door open. But Zubkov had a good run. Not good enough, as it turns out. Oskars Melbardis nailed his second heat as well. Mr. Speed at the start. Became Mr. Consistency on the track. 2 miles of ice. Each of his runs just 2 100ths of a second different from the other. And he was 2 100ths quicker in the start area, so the drives were near identical as he claimed his first win of the season a month out from the Olympic Games. Well, he was the man that won the warm-up race in Sochi last year in four-man. Let's hear from our top three with John Morgan.
Okay, Max Arndt, crazy bob race. The first run, you went first. Disadvantage.
Och, ja, es ist immer nicht ein Vorteil, wenn man hier als Start Nummer 1 an den Start geht, aber wir wollten das Beste draus machen. Es waren heute Wahnsinnsbedingungen, extrem viel schneller als im Training. Man hat das auch, denke ich, gesehen, dass alle ein paar Problemchen hatten unterwegs. Heute waren die Jungs hier besser und beim nächsten Mal versuchen wir uns wieder ranzukämpfen. Aber wir sind erstmal froh, schönes Wetter, 3. Platz, alles ist gut.
Yeah, he's still happy about his bronze medal. He had, the start number 1 draw is not to his advantage, but coming out here with a bronze medal and all the equipment problems, congratulations. Now over to second place, Team Zubkov. The second run, problem in the start. The curve one.
Проблема не со стартом, проблема с задержкой старта.
No, there wasn't a problem with start. It was the problem about the delay. It was a problem about the delay.
And after curve one?
А после первого поворота?
Ничего страшного.
No problem. It happens.
Second place, congratulations, silver medal, nice champagne, and Oscars. Wow. Two great runs, huh?
Jā, šodien varējām atļauties arī kļūdīties otrā braucienā un tāpat finišējām šoreiz priekšā visiem, bet katrā ziņā esiet vispacietīgi un mēs strādājam, darbojamies, un šī uzvara mums bija vajadzīga kā neliels atspēriens. Ceru, ka būs labāk. Mēs esam priecīgi, paldies.
He talks about experience, you hear that, and what this means to him in the Latvian program, and what a congratulations to Latvia.
Congratulations, Steve, to Latvia as Damas Driskins breaks loose with the champagne. He's been watching a little bit too much Formula One. They don't do that in sub-zero temperatures. Oscars Melbardis, new haircut, new consistency, new gold medal for him, and a taste of victory champagne from our friends at Mum Champagne. The number 1 on the bottle, the number 1 on the timing sheets. Well, congratulations to them. They look strong and fast and consistent. Can they keep that momentum going to Sochi? We'll find out a week from now in Eagles in Austria. Thanks to the FIBT TV crew here in St. Moritz. Thanks to John Morgan in the booth and in the finish area. And thanks to you for joining us. From me, Martin Haven, until Austria, it's goodbye from beautiful St. Moritz.